Well, right now, a voice we don't get to hear very often from a woman who knows firsthand what it's like to live in Iran. She was born there, she grew up there, and was only in high school when she says authorities picked up her personal diary and put her in prison because of some of the things that she wrote. Now, she left Iran and she now lives in Texas, where she's a cancer researcher, but she stays very active writing about her experience in Iran and about what she thinks about the way forward, especially when it comes to America. Humaira Heshimi joins us now on set. Nice to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jen.
So let's just talk a little bit about your story. Tell us about what was it like growing up in Iran?
Being in Iran under the current government, it's very hard. It's very hard for men and women, especially for women. You know, as you mentioned, I was writing in my diary. You know, I wasn't picking our arm against the government to do anything. I wasn't practicing freedom of speech. I was just practicing freedom of thinking, and that's just in my personal diary.
So when you think about someone having a diary in high school, you think about one of those pink little books with a locket on it that maybe you have at home. How did the authorities even find your diary?
They had routine searches every day, you know, because they were so afraid. That's like around 80s, that they were so afraid of all the happenings that was happening in Iran, and so they were trying to find anybody who was having anything against to the government. So they picked up on my diary and they kept, you know, reading it, and then I was about to be kicked out of high school.
What did you say in there?
Oh, I just said that, like, women should have more rights. You know, I was doing research on women's histories,
yeah.
like, you know, things like that you want to improve for your own, you know, country.
I want to ask you a little bit about what's going on today, but first we mentioned that you were put in prison for this. So what was that like?
It's very tough. When I was in prison, in confinement, when I wasn't seeing anybody, when I wasn't going out to see sun or anything, you know, I'm like a teenager in prison. And my only wish was that I see my family one more time. That was my wish back then. And my wish was granted, and I saw my family more than once. But I promised myself, if I do anything in my power to help people who are in prison, who don't have a voice, you know, I want to be their voice, and that's why, you know, I've been active since I left prison.
So we're going to have to fast forward a little bit because we're short on time, but you come to the United States, you develop this amazing career, you have a family, you're an American citizen, and now we're in this situation with Iran about this nuclear program. And there's sanctions in place, and one of the things that comes up with these sanctions is that critics say, listen, this is going to hurt people like us in Iran, your family and friends that are still there, these sanctions. It's not going to actually affect change in the government. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, especially since you're in touch with people in Iran, about what the ultimate effects of the sanctions are.
Yes, Jenna, we have to look at sanctions as against government and against people also. But when people are poor, you know, it's mathematical model. You know, you can't get more poor than, you know, you are. But when the government is rich and is supporting its mercenaries in Syria and Iraq and, you know, revolutionary guards in Iran to suppress people, then the sanction is going to hurt the government more than it hurts people. But I'm saying that sanctions by itself is not going to work, because sanctions been in place since 1979, you know, take unless, you know, but what is going to help and is going to make a difference in regime's behavior is helping Iranian people and Iranian opposition. Because when I was in prison, I realized that the only thing that the Iranian government is afraid of is the opposition. It's not afraid of the United States, it's not afraid of the Israel, it's not afraid of, you know, any other countries. It's just afraid of its opposition. And that's why, you know, as I said, I've been active, and, you know, I just, a few weeks ago, I attended the largest gathering of them in Paris.
It's so good to have you on set. We look forward to having you back. An interesting thing for us to consider today, the Iranian government potentially being more fearful of the opposition than of outsiders. Humaira, nice to have you. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.